and welcome to the Daily Space Weather. I am your host, Dan, aka Smash-O-Mash, broadcasting to you live from the system Smashtron 9, part of the Sagittarius A constellation, according to you Earthlings. We are in full control of the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. And welcome to the space weather. We've got some disparity here, some non-data overlap happening here from SDO. Also some calibration maneuvers, probably related to the different wavelengths here not showing up fully synced. Large coronal hole, minor levels of solar activity, kind of low levels of solar activity here. And let's take a look at sunspots, which they have been evolving a little bit here. This is 3126. There is also another group to be named down here. It's looking pretty weak, 3127. I think it's degraded to alpha class sunspot. And here is your colorized magnetogram. The flaring that we've seen in the past day has actually come from up here, I believe, in the northwestern limb. Let's take a brief look at what's going on planet Earth. Sakurajima producing a dense ash plume there, featured in that photograph, rising to about 15,000 feet of altitude there, 3,700 meter plume of volcanic ash. Subanose-jima produced a 6,000 foot ash plume. Langila continues to explode on the Isle of Papua New Guinea. Semeru on East Java, producing a 14,000 foot volcanic ash plume, flight level 140, flight level 150 over Kerinci. On Sumatra, the Trident volcano on the Alaskan Peninsula has been downgraded. So that's now level green. No signs of increased earthquake swarm or seismic tremor since the 30th of September. Popocatépetl continues to explode here in central Mexico. Flight level 230 over Popocatépetl. Sangay in Ecuador producing a flight level 240 as it explodes. Revenador exploding, flight level 160, flight level 230 over Sabancaya. So lots of volcanic activity here at the moment, folks. Villarrica. Activity continuing there at Villarrica. An elevated incandescence has been visible within the summit vent on the central Chilean volcano. Also a high thermal anomaly detected there from satellite image. So perhaps an eruption fixing to happen there at Villarrica. Next, we're going to look at earthquake activity. There is your 90-day bar graph for earthquakes. And here is your rundown. Largest quake of the past 24 was that 5.6. That happened there in the middle of the central Atlantic Ocean there. It's the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. So yeah, pretty low levels of seismic activity here the past 24 hours. If you felt an earthquake in the past 24, let us know in the comments. We're always interested to hear about that. Just scrolling up the list. Kermadec Islands had a 5.2. That's north of New Zealand. And a decent sized quake there at a 5.1 magnitude near India. And let's continue on to go back to space. And let's pause for station identification. By the way, if you're wondering what the background is here, those are the stars that orbit Sagittarius A star, the galactic core. If you see this little blue spot in the middle here, that is Sagittarius A star. That is the massive radio source at the core of the Milky Way galaxy. Around which a bunch of blue supergiant stars orbit at a significant percentage of light speed. So there's your ionized helium wavelength. Radio flux only at 113 solar flux units. There's the 1-year chart to put that in context. Pretty low levels of solar activity here, following some quite high levels of solar activity. The sun was actually at about the second highest it was throughout the cycle. Maybe the fourth highest, something like that, but near the peaks of solar cycle 25 so far. We also see some interesting things happening with the magnetic fields. We'll get to it. First, the space weather enthusiast dashboard here, not forecasting any sort of geomagnetic storms or geomagnetic unrest. I'm still expecting to see a CME impact, a minor one. At some point today, it could arrive at any moment. Let's continue on here to look at the earthly geospace for the past 4 hours. That, my friends, is Earth's magnetic moment from space. If you want to know how it's modeled, go to the Geospace Magnetosphere Movies page, click on Details down here, this tab right here at the bottom. That'll give you a link to the Space Weather Modeling Framework. You can download all the software that is used for it. It uses all kinds of magnetic data, solar wind data, electron flux, and more to get that model. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground for the past 4 hours. Quite geomagnetically calm indeed. We've got a cosmic ray update coming up. Not a lot of aurora to be seen here in the past 24. So here's your KP index. That's 3 days in a row that we reported that it's 1.33. KP 1.33 is the planetary K index, a measurement of global geomagnetism, and let's take a look at cosmic rays. We try to look at it at least once per week on the channel. So going all the way south here, it's a rectal thermometer of the magnetosphere, perhaps, maybe even the heliosphere, the amount of cosmic ray flux. So there you go. There is DOMB Antarctica going as far south as we can get and seeing an uptick here over the past 30 days at DOMB Antarctica. How about DOMC Antarctica? A more slight but significant uptick there at DOMC. How about Oulu, Finland, going way north? A slight uptick there at Oulu as well. Let's go back a little bit farther south here to Mexico City as we crisscross the planet. There is your Mexico City Cosmic Ray Observatory. A little uptick there at Mexico City. How about going farther back north to Greece? Athens there showing a more significant uptick in the past 30 days. And let's go way up north to the land of Apatity. Small uptick there at the Apatity neutron monitor for the past 30 days. And also Barentsburg. Slight uptick there at Barentsburg. So it's a cosmic ray uptick here over the past 30 days. Let's continue on to look at the real-time solar wind data. Again, we are waiting to see a CME strike. It would be a minor one. Current conditions are just under 5 protons per cubic centimeter for solar wind density, solar wind speed about 416 kilometers per second. And let's continue on to more magnetic data. So here are the GOES magnetometers here. Fairly smooth readings. A little bit of a divergence happening there around midnight local time for the GOES 17. That's what that M means. And we see some activity happening at the North Solar Pole. So I don't know if you noticed that or not. You can see the green blob there. That's the North Solar Polar Field leaving the North Heliographic region. It's still partially there, but we see some red showing up. So if we look at the last frame here, let's go back a couple frames. You see that right there? There is some South Pole magnetism showing up at the North Heliographic Pole. So that's something we've been waiting for here. We're waiting for the green to leave and the red to arrive. As solar cycle 25 progresses, it's the solar polar field reversal process being covered daily on the channel. Let's take a look at the line of sight field plot. And it's time to move to coronal holes. The blue potential field surface source lines here are showing the sun's B field. That's the field that goes through the magnet. North solar polar fields in green, south solar polar fields in red. We've got a very well-defined coronal hole here in the southern heliosphere, and some new North Pole-oriented coronal holes rotating in the east. Let's take a look at it from 211 angstroms. Very well-defined coronal hole down there. Likely to be sending some earthly high-speed coronal hole wind stream in about 4 days. 3.5 to 4 days. Next, we're going to move to sunspots, but first, station identification. If you haven't noticed, we've made a small change at smashomash.com, and welcome to the Neo-Renaissance. Help us out with clicks by visiting our links. Join us on Twitter. Are you still using Facebook for some reason? Despite the pathetic censorship on the platform, we've got a permanent invite link to our Discord chat right here. You want to send me an instant message, do it that way. Or you can always send me a message on Twitter and so on. But the change that we've made to the website is this link to Hemp Lucid. So our latest sponsor / affiliate is Hemp Lucid. If you already buy their products, please buy them through our link. Help the channel out that way, perhaps. And there's what's going on. Featured product here is the new Delta 8 gummies, watermelon flavor. We'll be doing a product review on that in a few days, so make sure you check that out. All kinds of different products, testimonials, reviews, and more available on that link. So visit the links below the video and on the homepage at smashomash.com. Today's featured product is Make Earth Not Suck Again. If you click the link to the red bubble shop, you'll find our products in order of best selling. Did you know that HIPAA did not evaporate in the year 2020? The Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996, it's still a thing, folks. We've also re-released one of our first merch offerings, which is the Smasher Price My First Pandemic. And congratulations on surviving a global pandemic so far. There is the Planet Masked. There is today's featured product, Mensa. Make Earth Not Suck Again. It's up to you. And, of course, I am wearing our bestseller today. It features words that shall not be mentioned, so I'll just... Yeah, certain things should not be shared on social media, such as your status. Your medical privacy is no joke, and you may not want to tweet about any of your protected health information, just saying. So in an effort to make Earth not suck again, it's part of the reason why we have the Red Bubble Shop. If you haven't read about our mission, check it out at smashomash.com/forum/mission. smashomash.com/forum/mission. You can read all about our mission. And part of it is to make Earth not suck again and even make America not suck again, not necessarily in that order. So don't forget to act global. Actually think global and act local. If you want to support the channel via a subscription membership, become a member at the smashomash.com/smash team. Another change recently made on the homepage and on the Smash Team site is the link to SureMed. If you'd like to improve your health, become a member of SureMed. All kinds of features available there that can do just that. Things like doctors by phone, counselors by phone, virtual veterinarians. Yeah, even virtual veterinarians, folks. Huge discounts on dental, save 15 to 50% at tens of thousands of locations nationwide. Save on vision. The retail and mail-order pharmacy is fantastic, and pharmacy discounts using your SureMed card. It also opens you up to purchase certain group insurance only available to SureMed members. SureMed, the base membership is not insurance. It's a nonprofit organization known as the American Better Health Organization, focused on improving the health of its members. So check that out. Last but not least, press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content on YouTube. Thanks to our YouTube viewers for tolerating the pathetic censorship on the platform. As certain big tech organizations mislead investors and self-destruct, apparently they think that they can destroy the internet while they just destroy themselves. I don't know why zombie corporations continue to move forward and not innovate and operate software that's 20 years outdated. But nonetheless, thanks YouTube viewers. To YouTube, the corporation, we insist that you repair your junkware, stop misleading investors, and stop being a zombie corporation. Okay, let's get the sunspots. And here you have our sunspots. As we stated yesterday, we've got 3126. We'll have 3127 down here. That'll be named today. It's been there for well over 12 hours, more like 24 plus hours. It's a pretty weak looking sunspot though, and we've got pretty weak levels of solar activity here in general. So here's your SDO magnetogram. We do have a little bit of evolution of 3126. We may see the radio flux dip a little bit more here. As we don't see any new sunspots, here is your SDO continuum. Again, a little bit of evolution happening there. Not really growth, just some migration of those umbrae. 3127 has degraded since yesterday. Let's talk about flares. We don't see any relativistic particles in the past quite a while here, over a week. And there is your X-ray flux. So we did see some C-class flaring there. It was largely from the region that's now setting over the northwestern limb. So we may see the flare profile drop even lower here. Here's the past 24 in 131 angstroms. Again, I think the flares came from this region up here exclusively. Not seeing any other flares from any other spot. And let's continue on to a star chart. This is what's going on overhead at Lehigh Valley. As we encourage our viewers to look up, you might see Mars up there high in the sky, right near the galactic plane, which is represented by this blue line. The yellow line is the ecliptic. Also the crescent moon there. As we approach a new moon, let's do a solar system forecast. Here's what's going on now in the solar system. Let's advance this 1 week. Here's where things will be in a week. We'll have a tiny sliver moon in 1 week on October 27th. Next, looking at some coronagraphs. Here's yesterday. There were some CMEs. They're pretty diffuse. Are they earthly directed? We'll tell you here in a moment. First, today's coronagraph. So far, that's 101 frames from yesterday. Here are 34 frames from today. And I don't think there are any additional earthly directed coronal mass ejections. Let's take a look at Lagrange 5, where stereo A is located, and Lagrange 1, where the Soho-Lascaux C3 and C2. So we still have this huge prominence here in the north. can see that reflected also on the Soho-Lasco C3. Also the planet Venus there on the Soho-Lasco C3. And while we do see a CME, right, in the past 10 hours, it looks like it is off to the north. So for you new viewers out there, Earth would be off in this perspective from stereo A, and I'm pretty sure that is off to the north and indeed to the west. So if you look over here, you can see a little bit of a CME happening right there, and it does not appear to be earthly directed. From the perspective of the Soho-Lasco C3, Earth would be behind you. Let's reanimate those here for a quick moment before we move on and get to our bonus features. As part of the Gulf Coast freezes. So here are the 24-hour movies here. Great imagery there of the solar corona and the ionized helium wavelength 304 angstroms from SDO. Here's the fully zoomed out version. Again, no indication that any of those CMEs are earthly directed. And we haven't neglected to bring up the hydrogen alpha imagery. Still quite a lot of filaments in the southern hemisphere here, so don't be surprised to see additional CMEs, especially from the southwestern quadrant. We'll be streaming it live on Twitch. This is the GO 16 SUVI, and you can see that very well-defined coronal hole in the thematic imagery. Let's bring up the GO 16 SUVI 304 angstroms wavelength, as we still do have a small crown prominence in the southern hemisphere. Again, lots of filaments over there in the southwest. How about 94 angstroms from today and yesterday? And it's time for bonus features. Satellites are having clear sailing at the moment. No charging hazards there for satellites. It goes electron flux here in a sort of a normal range. Nothing to write home about there. Relativistic electron forecast here, right in the sort of the meaty part of the range there. That's the NOAA forecast for greater than or equal to 2 mega electron volt electron flux. There's the 1-year graph from solon.info. We'll also show the ionosphere. This next imagery is of the F flare, located here at about 300 kilometers of altitude, one slice. And in many ways the bridge between Earth and space. The atmosphere is kind of diffuse up there at 300 kilometers. You could say it is space. And there's a lot of stuff shaking. Megahertz are millions of vibrations per second. Let's bring up the latest image here. Let's go to the anomalygram. It's showing you low-frequency anomalies in red, high-frequency anomalies in blue. It's the anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Quite a few low-frequency anomalies happening here around the equator especially. Places like the Central Atlantic, Eastern Pacific, and there's the latest image, 10:15 Universal Time ionogram, 10:15 Universal Time anomalygram, and thanks for leaving a comment, Mike Bordages. Yes, filaments. Next to total electron content, It's literally a count of the electrons from the inner portion of the outer Van Allen belt down to your GPS handset. It'll show you the most likely places to see GPS errors, and those GPS errors give us an indication of where the free electrons are located. We are seeing some anomalous levels of total electron content here over the North American continent. We'll let that play through one more time. And then we'll show you a convenient diagram. Your GPS satellite is located at about 12,500 miles, about 12,500 miles of altitude, and that signal can be heavily refracted by free electrons, giving huge GPS errors. How about the latest intensitygram and latest colorized magnetogram? Let's take a look at sunspot 3126. Mostly stable here since yesterday. We have that small group down there. It's still beta gamma class. Just barely holding on. Those trailing North Pole umbrae there, looking like they are evaporating. Anyway, there's your rock back, and those appear to be the only sunspots. These areas here in the east are just plages. No umbrae there. And how about some more series of images here from SDO? This is Iron Star, 3 different species of ionized iron, 335, 193, and 94 angstroms. That's the data from yesterday plus today, and it's time. Time to move to meteorology, as huge parts of the U.S. are so cold. In fact, they are so hot that they are cold. Let us know if you have some extreme temperatures going on where you're located. What's the temperature right now where you are? Let's start things out for meteorology by looking at Saharan dust. You can see some Saharan dust here making its way into Spain and France, actually. Also making its way well across the Atlantic Ocean there. Great view of the Duex, it's called, which is the 550 nanometer optical thickness aerosol. Saharan dust fertilizing the eastern Caribbean as we speak. We're going to show the surface winds and the jet streams of the whole planet. So there are the surface winds of the eastern world. Here are the jet streams of the eastern world. Jet streams of the western world. Very chaotic jet stream here over North America. It is all over the place, and it is pulling a ton of cold air down, 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 all the way to Florida. We're seeing some freeze warnings on the Gulf Coast. We'll get to it. Here are the surface winds of the Americas. 2 strong lows here off the southern coast of Mexico. Some strong lows there in the northern Atlantic as well. Surface winds of the central world looking like this. And there are the jet streams. And by the way, for you meteorology noobs, if you had to use only one feature to forecast the weather in large swaths of the planet, I would recommend the jet stream. It's represented here in the 250 hectopascal winds, a specific band of wind that allows us to track the jet streams. Next, looking at the Himawari 8, and it does appear indeed that the system that we said would degrade yesterday has indeed degraded. So give that a minute to load up. It's well worth it. Some more spectacular imagery from the Himawari 8 as that typhoon is settling down. See it becoming a little bit less defined there through the video. And let's continue on. So check out the freeze warnings. All those purple areas, those are all freeze warnings. If your county's lit, click your county. Western Kentucky is not only cold, it's also dry and windy as the Mississippi River drought continues. Gale warnings around Alaska and Hawaii. Again, if your county is lit, head to weather.gov, click your county. Frost advisories in large portions of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, as well as freeze warnings in places like Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Ohio, Indiana, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, South Carolina, and indeed Virginia. Next, we're going to bring up a forecast here of temperature anomaly. The data was not available while doing show prep, so here is the animation of that. It's the GFS forecast in degrees Celsius for temperature anomaly. So we're going to have anomalously warm weather coming back soon. Come on then. There we go. But at the moment, a little bit on the chilly side. For the southeastern portion of the U.S., some anomalously cold temperatures there coming to the Pacific Northwest in the next 3 days. In fact, the whole northwestern quadrant of the country there are going to see some anomalously cold temperatures and some wild swings happening. Some pockets of very cold and very hot air there in Colorado. Not surprising, as there's definitely a lot of hot air and crap and nonsense coming out of Colorado. So here's the current temperature situation. Coldest temperatures there in places like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Virginia, and North Carolina. Yowzers. Also, it's probably not very warm in Minnesota. No, not that bad actually. 31. 32 in Wisconsin. .30 degrees there in western North Carolina. Apparently it's so hot that it's cold. It's so hot that it's cold, folks. What, haven't you ever taken thermodynamics? What are you, a science denier? You don't know that it's so hot that it's cold? Here's your NASA GOES lightning mapper, and not a lot of lightning to map. No terrestrial strikes in the U.S. at the moment. Things are pretty calm when it comes to lightning. And welcome to the world of the living, Smash Staff. Next, headed to weather. Radar.weather.gov, that is. It's the U.S. Doppler radar map. Some fairly heavy precipitation there around Alaska. We'll focus on the lower 48 for the remainder of the video, as that low slowly moves to the northeast as we forecasted yesterday. Foggy conditions, low clouds over the Gulf of Mexico. Check it out, folks. It's gravity wave clouds. Oh my God. Gravity waves. Oh. Maybe a neutron star has flared up. This is clouds and fog, 3.9 nanometer infrared radiation. From the NASA GOES Interactive Weather Satellite Suite, here is the water vapor map. You can see that cold air rushing south from central Canada. Here's the recap U.S. Doppler radar showing vertical motion of water droplets. Also showing the end of one of the one of the radar arrays. The weather doesn't just end there, folks. The radar array ends. Here is shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog, and there is water vapor. Things pretty chill as far as precipitation over the U.S. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for joining us as we broadcast from the planet Smashtron 9, which orbits, by the way, it orbits S2 at pushing light speed, if you weren't aware. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists, and may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this broadcast, not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.